Part 4, Chapter 28. Jason and Michaela. Jason and Mickey. The names just roll off the tongue, don't they? They are a new couple, a new breath of life to their circle of friends, and a fresh reminder that young and trusting love is still possible. Exuding confidence and an evident abundance of faith in the goodness of their fellow man, they daily show others that cynicism isn't always preferable, even if it may be in vogue. Jason is a professional man, possessing the svelte charm and willowy attractiveness of one who lives healthy. He is the kind of man who lays his hand on your shoulder when speaking with you so as to impart both a recognition of your personal value and a sense of respect for the person you are. Mickey is an appealing and delightful woman, the kind of person who wouldn't hesitate running to the side of a friend simply to soothe anguish and suffering. It is evident her heart is not hers, for she freely gives it to those who are feeble and weak, imparting to each the very fuel of life, a fuel called hope. Jason and Mickey, the perfect couple. Though their circle of friends never put faith in such, fate and destiny certainly could be given credit for their relationship. They are a couple whose passion and fascinations follow threads of classic romance. Visions of Romeo and Juliet or Bogart and Bacall fill the minds of those having the privilege of knowing them. By day, Jason is an engineer working for Midway Magnetic, a secret research company unobtrusively located just a few miles from his home in Sonora, California. Mickey is a social worker, a line of work that is arguably the best exploitation of her abilities. Though Mickey has no real idea what Jason does at work, by the look in his eyes and by the way he never looks away as they dance slowly without word or song, she knows his heart only belongs to her. Though his work sometimes calls for him to stay late, she never worries or fears. He will always come home. He always has. He always will. "Your lunch is waiting by the front door," Mickey called out from the kitchen, "and breakfast is just about ready." "Thanks, babe," responded Jason as he hurried to finish shaving. Hoping not to give himself a fresh set of facial nicks, he tried to concentrate on the task at hand and not on the seriousness of the day's activities. Finishing up the last stroke with the straight razor his grandfather gave him when he was just learning to shave, Jason rinsed his face with water and applied some aftershave. Blotting his face dry, he emerged from the bathroom ready to face another day. "I hit a new PB this morning during our workout," Jason announced as he sat down at the breakfast table with Mickey and little Jace. Jason raises an eyebrow and changes his voice to evoke a sense of mock disdain. "Did you?" "Personal bests are exactly that, my love. Personal," replied Mickey. "I think my recovery time is getting better now that I'm finally getting over this cold." "Bothersome thing," she said with a fake English accent. Both chuckled. Handing Jason a serving tray of eggs, Mickey asked, "Would you be able to drop Jace off at school this morning on your way to work? I still need to get ready before I go to meet Carrie this morning to go to the mall." "Sure," replied Jason. Unknown to Mickey, the route Jason had planned to take to work was not the route which included a pass by the school. That could be changed. Of the 10 routes approved for Jason to get to work, 3 of them took him by his son's school. Jason was allowed, by the Department of Defense, to choose which one he would take each morning when coming to work, just so long as the routes were chosen in a random manner. The 3 finished eating breakfast in relative silence except for the small television sitting on the far end of the kitchen counter, announcing the news of the day. Jason Jr., or Jace, as everybody called him, sat quietly in his chair cramming in some homework he was supposed to have finished last night. The TV droned on with a smattering of local news and weather. In the small town of Sonora, there is no need for traffic reports, since there is only one major road. This isn't to say Sonora is a small town. Sonora has certainly grown, even just during the 5 short years Jason and Mickey have lived there. But the way Sonora grew was through sprawling communities spread out over the countryside, known as Sonora Hills, instead of cramming people together like major metropolitan centers. Finishing his breakfast, Jason got up from the table and made his way to the front door. Jace acted like he didn't notice the commotion, hoping to get in a little more time on his books before he left. He knew there was always a little morning ritual at the front door between his parents that gave him some more time. First, Jason made his way to the door with all that he was supposed to take with him to work in his hands. Then, getting there, he set the things down and turned to give Mickey a long and loving hug, saying little remarks in her ear that were for their ears only. Dropping back from the hug, but still in each other's arms, there would be a couple of minutes of small talk, intermixed with at least 5 I love yous. After that, Jason would reluctantly release his body hold on his wife, bend over to pick up his things, straighten up, and give Mickey a final parting kiss. Only then would he be ready to go. "Come on, little man, time to rock and roll," Jason called to the breakfast table. Jace, already knowing the timing of the morning ritual, had gathered his things together into his backpack and was on his way. "Bye, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart," replied Mickey. "Have a great day at school." Mickey bent down and gave Jace a kiss on the cheek, and Jace reciprocated with a kiss on hers. Jace has always been the kind of boy who isn't ashamed to show his mother affection, even in public. It was Mickey's firm belief that the close bond between her and Jason, as well as their openness in showing affection to each other in front of Jace, are the big reasons why their son is so well adjusted. Emerging from the front door and walking to the carport near the front of the small single-story home, Jason and Jace got into the car, pulled out of the driveway, and disappeared down the road. "Here you go, little man. Got everything?" Jason asked as they arrived in front of the school. "Yep." The car comes to a stop. "Okay, here you go, son. Have a good one." "Thanks, Dad," called Jace as he jumped out of the car, slammed the car door shut, and walked over to where some of his friends were standing. Pulling back into traffic, Jason proceeded down Greenlee Street, where Jason went to school, and arrived at the stoplight. Turning left onto Mono Way, he drove up Highway 108, where he again turned left. Highway 108 was the main thoroughfare through East Sonora, and if you drove far enough, you found Dodge Ridge, a nice ski resort. Right next to Dodge Ridge is Pinecrest Lake, and around Pinecrest is a campground usually filled to capacity during the summer. In the evenings, the ranger station will show current movies in an open-air amphitheater at the side of the lake. A beautiful country, a beautiful area. It was always such a juxtaposition how Jason had such a high-tech job in this area. Even though 108 was the main highway that could take him to the very destination where his office was located, Jason started on the first of several detours for today's route. Normally, Jason didn't mind the circuitous routes to his office, but today was different. He had been working on the multiphasic multimedia tests in the Super Collider collision chamber for the better part of his entire tenure at Midway Magnetic. And today was the first time Jason expected to see some results. Today was a turning point, or at least he hoped it would be. After traveling on several detour roads, Jason arrived at Cherokee Road. Turning left, he drove a little way, then stopped at a small roadside stand on an apple farm where various apple-related treats were sold. Today was his turn to bring in morning goodies to go with the coffee. A few apple turnovers and a couple of fritters would do the trick. Proceeding down Cherokee, the road meets up with Tuolumne Road, and eventually back to the original highway where he started his trip. Turning right onto the highway, Jason then settled in for a 20-minute drive through the dense forests belonging to the Bureau of Land Management, a government agency. Passing through various tourist towns, he arrived at the turnoff to the town of Longbard, then another turn. Jason eased his car into a large, drab, unmarked steel warehouse, where the door was already opening due to the radio transponder buried deep in the circuitry of his personal car. With the warehouse door closing behind him, Jason shut down the engine and emerged toting an armload of materials and a briefcase. "Anything I should be aware of today, Corporals?" asked Jason. Standing at ease on either side of the door he just drove through, Corporal Stanley Jackson and Corporal Stephen Jenkins were pulling guard duty. "According to the latest reconnaissance reports, there are campers on 4Y12 and at the Clavey River crossing, sir," answered Corporal Jackson. "Thanks. Here," said Jason. Always one to keep the rank and file happy, Jason pulled out the fritters for the two guards. He figured making friends this way would put money in the friendship bank, which he might need to cash in on later. "This should help keep you guys busy for a while." "Thank you, sir." After transferring his things into one of the fleet of four-wheel drive vehicles lined up in an angled row to one side of the warehouse, Jason pulled out of the door on the opposite end. Since there were campers on 4Y12 and at the Clavey River crossing, he would have to take Road 3N01 to avoid being seen. Jason drove through one of his favorite vistas, a rough and beautiful mountain crest area called Trout Creek Overlook. Sometimes, if he has the time, he stops the engine and stands next to the vehicle, enjoying the view and almost surreal grandeur of the canyons. The forest is densely packed with grove after grove of pine and fir trees, and nowhere in this vista is there a patch of bare land. The symphony of colors one's eyes feast on are almost more than can be soaked in during a single look. As he drove by, he remembered how he often stood on the overlook, with his own feet refusing to obey his command to leave when it was time to go on. Today, there wasn't enough time to stop. The systems test would need every ounce of attention. After a left turn onto 3N01, the road led Jason through the trees for about 10 miles. Before proceeding, he stopped his vehicle and looked out the side window. There, on the informal corner bounding 3N01 and Trout Creek Overlook, he glanced at a set of trees, each about 1 meter in diameter. Like all the other pine trees, these had various blemishes and distinguishing features. One tree in particular garnered his attention, especially one of the knots, where it appeared a branch had been cut off. At that moment, the knothole lit up bright green, revealing itself to be a well-camouflaged screen hiding a signal light. "Green is go," Jason said to himself. Taking the signal to mean there was still no known civilian activity on this final leg to the site, Jason proceeded forward to the end of 3N01, where he found himself at the crest of a hill, which hid a gargantuan crater, similar to what you would expect to find at the top of an extinct volcano. Nestled at the bottom of the crater was a triangular stack of logs that appeared to be ready for pickup and delivery to any of the number of lumber mills existing locally. Driving down the road on the side of this hidden canyon at the top of a mountain, Jason finally arrived at his destination, fully 1 hour and 15 minutes after he left home. Pulling around to one end of the log pile, Jason reached down to a hidden panel on the underside of his car's dashboard. Dropping into view, a simple 10-digit keypad was attached to the inside of the hidden panel. Tapping in the code, the end of the log pile receded into the earth with quick precision. Glancing around, Jason noted there were no visible signs of human activity. In reality, there were 17 guard posts in different positions around the perimeter of the canyon. Each guard post was disguised as a large tree, allowing the guard inside to view all that was occurring in the canyon. Each had a false floor in it and was connected to the other 16 posts through a system of underground passageways. From this vantage point, a guard was able to see not only what was happening in the canyon itself, but also any civilian activity happening nearby. Each of the guards had a kill switch, and each of the 17 kill switches had to be in the accept position for Jason's 10-digit code to do anything. Since utter and absolute secrecy was essential to the installation, each of the standing guards around the perimeter had the authority to flip his switch to deny, causing the keypad in Jason's vehicle to simply act like a car alarm and nothing more. As the log door dropped, Jason knew all was clear. Pulling into the dark and unlit cavern hollowed out in the middle of the log pile, Jason turned off the engine. Sensing his vehicle was completely inside the structure, automatic security equipment closed the door behind, obscuring the fact that he had ever come there. Vibrating panels below the road surface leading to the log structure began to vibrate, moving and shifting the loose dirt and gravel, erasing tire tread marks. The tops of several angled 2-inch wide tree stumps just outside the door to the log structure opened up, and a menagerie of dust, dirt, and gravel was blown at the closed door, erasing the fact it had ever moved. Jason remained in the vehicle. Suddenly, it lurched downward, and after descending through a cement-lined shaft for what seemed an interminable amount of time, he arrived at his destination, a well-lit, impeccably clean parking structure below the surface of the crater. On the side wall of the structure was the company logo for Midway Magnetic, Incorporated. Restarting his engine, he pulled forward into parking spot number 5, which matched the 5 painted on the dash of his vehicle. Jason killed the engine and proceeded to the elevator which would take him to his office on underground level 9. Hey fellow Galimarians, this is Dan Adrian, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my book. If you can, please click like down below because it really helps me bring these videos to you and lets me know what you like. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll get notified when I release more chapters. If you have any questions about this or any other of my books, or if you want to know more about what it takes to write a novel like this one, please make sure you leave your question in the comments below. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.